what's the best way to start a new ministry? Do nothing for 6 months. Watch it grow.
She started crying in the car. She goes, it's one thing to camp, but it's another thing to surprise camp.
While I'm waiting for them to read the x-ray, all I hear is, oh man, that sucks. Welcome to the Grace Marriage Podcast. I'm Brad Rhodes.
And I'm Marilyn Rhodes. We're here to help you build a marriage that's stronger, more connected, and full of grace.
I'm Rick Dayton, joining Brad and Marilyn as we bring you weekly conversations designed to inspire and equip you to live intentionally in your marriage.
We'll share practical tips, powerful stories, and strategies to help you and your spouse grow closer and thrive together.
So whether you're just starting out or have been married for years, there's always room to grow. Let's do this together. This is the Grace Marriage Podcast.
Jim Collins wrote a book that's called Built to Last, talking about visionary companies and things that they do. One of those things is to create what he calls a BHAG, that are big, hairy, audacious goals. BHAGs allow you to be visionary, allow you to see things a little bit differently than everybody else does. Can you put BHAGs to work in your marriage? What can you do to be visionary in your marriage? If somebody else says, why? What if your response is, why not? That's what we're talking about today on the Grace Marriage Podcast. Hey there, I'm Rick Dayton along with Brad and Marilyn Rhodes, and we are delighted that you are with us around the table today talking about why, or sometimes why not. You all had a story that I think a lot of people will love to hear, and that is that you decided you had been an attorney, and you've talked about your background as a lawyer. You were a mom at home with kids, deciding that you're going to start Grace Marriage, but that, Marilyn, you thought this would be the perfect time for us to do something as a family together. Mm-hmm. And now what we're about to do, as Paul Harvey said, is hear the rest of the story. What was your idea? What was your, hey, Brad, why not?
Well, as I was thinking about, okay, when will we ever be transitioning in careers again? Mm-hmm. It will be, probably, Lord willing, when we retire. So our kids were age 16. Our oldest was 16 at the time, and our youngest was 5. And I thought, before we start Grace Marriage, we should take a break. And why not travel with our kids and see the United States? And before we start this, you're transitioning out of practicing law. This is a huge transition.
So you're talking about a 10-day trip somewhere.
And I'm talking about a 6-month trip.
A what? Hey, was that your response, Brad? A what?
Yeah, I was like, I'm just thinking, what's the best way to start a new ministry? Just do nothing for 6 months. Watch it grow.
Well, but I just thought our kids are a captive audience. Well, this will be the only time in the rest of our lives that we could all be together, and they can learn so much. We can see the United States. I thought at the time, he can visit with churches. We could start to begin Grace Marriage, but let's see the United States together. We can homeschool the kids, and I thought it was a brilliant idea. And so I shared it with Brad, and he did not think it was a brilliant idea. He thought it was crazy.
It sounds like your 16-year-old daughter thought it was a great idea.
No, she did not. I wasn't sharing this with the kids yet because I knew we needed to get on board.
Your first conversation was with Brad.
Just Brad.
Your thought when you heard it?
It's crazy. It's crazy. I think I mentioned earlier that I talked to my mentor. He said, hold her off and see if it passes. So it's like I thought, well, one, in my mind, we'd start getting a little bit of momentum with Grace Marriage. We're just kind of early stages of it, starting it. And in my mind, we do this, we lose all momentum.
You do the 6-month trip, you lose momentum.
We lose momentum. We lose everything. We come back. It's hard to start. And typically our mind goes more to the barriers than the opportunities. So I went to all the barriers, and I said no. And then Marilyn
and
said
I
yes.
just kept seeing the opportunity. It kept growing in my mind. It just...
Oh, it did. She said, she goes, Brad, I've thought about it, and I'm just not okay not doing it.
I did say that. Because the more I thought about that, financially, we could rent our house out, and that would help cover the cost of renting places. We'll stay with friends.
Is that what you did?
That's what we did.
Yeah. Our
house was rented the whole time we were gone, so we had to prepare for that, which was a whole nother bird. But it worked to help offset the cost of that. And then when you don't have your kids in sports and activities, and we would go to the grocery and we had a big cooler on the back of our, and we would eat out of the cooler. And then if we stayed somewhere, so it really we made it really cost effective. But I was just in my head, I thought we can see all these national parks. Our kids will learn so much. We have this opportunity and they're going to be gone before we know it. So I started getting upset that he wasn't on board. And that's when I said, I'm just not okay.
We camped. We stayed with friends. We stayed with a friend in Seattle for 4 weeks.
And they still like us.
Yeah. but it was like, I was really against it. And I had like a lot of times you have these moments you just remember real specifically. But I remember being specifically where I was in the car when everything changed on the idea.
And when it changed for the positive?
Yes.
Okay. That Marilyn was right once again.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I like that. I like you saying once again.
She is. And the good thing about Marilyn is she'll stay with you until you acknowledge it. And she's very helpful in that regard. But I was on my way back from a legal seminar in Louisville, and I just had this thing ring in my ear. Why not? And I thought, why not? It's like I could literally spend 6 months with my wife and kids and see the country. Why not? Mm-hmm. Instead of asking why, I said, why not? And then I called Marilyn and I said, I'm in. Now, I tried to hijack it and schedule meetings all over the country. My board shut that down. I think I've shared that. But I said, why not? And we decided to do it. I realized it's what seemed not possible. Just because everybody else isn't doing something doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Mm-hmm. And for me, nobody else was doing this. So it just seemed like a really bad idea. You would think maybe one other person would be doing it if it was a good idea. Mm-hmm. But it was the best 6 months of my whole life. And I'm so glad that God inclined my heart toward it and got me excited about it until we went. I mean, the first month was terrible. I mean, the first month you talk about an adjustment. You do your own schedule, you have meetings, you have everything else. Then all of a sudden you're with 5 kids all the time in a van, pulling a trailer. I mean, at the end of January, we left January 1st. By the end of January, I did not think I was going to make it.
And you went from January, did you set an end date?
End of June.
So you knew that was sort of the timeline that you were looking at.
We were sitting on the back deck near the border of Mexico in Marathon, Texas. And I'm sitting there by myself, literally. Tons of conflict in the car on the way there. Couldn't find our place. Thought we had been had on our place. Finally found our place. It had a bathtub in the front yard. So I'm sitting on the back porch, and I vividly thought it was January 31st. I thought in 2 months I'll be half done.
So you were already counting down the days.
I thought in 2 months I'll be half done.
Right, but you were already counting down.
I mean, literally. I mean, the kids were on my nerves. I was raising my voice. I was having trouble enjoying it. But then February hit, and I literally fell in love with the whole thing.
Did you hit a rhythm? I mean, was that the
you
thing?
kind of settle in. It really, living on the road is challenging with 5 kids and pulling a trailer.
You were kind of like the Partridge Family, weren't you? It's just you didn't have the bus.
And I wasn't used to it. Marilyn was more used to being around the kids all day. Right. I wasn't used to no space ever. You know, for clients, if I'm tired and I want to be 10 minutes late, I can just sit and have a cup of coffee. Okay, now come on in. I didn't have 7 people around me all the time. Mm-hmm. And we have one kid that's really good at making fun of you when you're struggling. You know, oh, Dad's grouchy.
I wonder where she got it.
Oh, Dad's grouchy. Don't mess with Dad. It's like if you're like on the edge of a cliff. I mean, she's
poking the bear.
Oh no, she pushes you over. So literally that's
they are 2 peas in a pod.
But it was so neat because like we have such a uniquely close family now, and I talk to him on the phone most days, and it's like God used that. I loved my kids before, and I enjoyed my kids before, but God used that trip to take it to a level that I did not know could exist. I mean, I just was fascinated by them.
How long ago was this?
This was in 2016.
Okay, so pre-COVID, right? I mean, when a lot of people started saying, well, we're going to go live somewhere else, we're going to try something else, we're going to live in somebody else. That was not the norm at all when you were doing this. Mm-hmm. Are there stories now, 8 years, 9 years, whatever later, are there stories now that if you start into it, everybody around the table just howls?
Yes.
And
they're usually our worst days are the ones they laugh the hardest about. Kind of when we had a bad day. Yeah. Those are the funniest ones.
There's a bunch. I mean, there's you
on Easter, a needle got buried into Brad's foot.
I'm walking on the carpet, I step, I feel something hurt in my foot. So I can't get it out. I thought it was like a little staple. So I go to the urgent care. And they couldn't get it out. So they do an x-ray. So while I'm waiting for them to read the x-ray, all I hear is, quote, "Oh man, that sucks."
This is from a medical professional?
From an x-ray tech. I mean, he's like, "Oh man, that sucks." I'm like, well, I'm guessing it wasn't good.
It was not a staple.
So then he shows me my foot, and there is a full-size sewing needle that had disappeared within my foot.
Like, as in it went in through the sole of your foot and
straight up, and it was
It
like
went in an angle, so it didn't come out the top.
it was like a millimeter from the top, a millimeter from the bottom, but was gone. And so I said, "Look, dude,
it's not funny."
I said, "Look, dude, I'll sign any waiver. I'll sign anything you need. Just get it out." He goes, "No, we can't. You need to see a general surgeon." I'm like, "I'm in L.A. on Easter with no insurance."
No insurance.
No.
Well, we had a catastrophic plan, so it's going to be
We had some short-term catastrophic
because
plan.
you were between jobs at that
Right.
point.
Oh, and
Right.
the plan was useless. We thought we thought we had something, but we might as well have nothing.
Did he have you bite a stick and give you a little bit of whiskey and say, "We're going to take it out"? Well, what do we do?
So I go to the ER. I'm laying in the hall, and there's this thing, and this ER doc walks up. "What's wrong?" I said, "I got a needle buried in my foot." He said, "Roll over." And he starts pressing around, and when I yell, he knows where it is. He marks an X on it, numbs my foot, slices it open, pulls it out just like a pair of pliers, yanks it out, and then he says, "Who's your family doctor?" I said, "Well,
You are.
Yeah.
Welcome to the family.
I said, "This is, we're on a." I said, "I don't have one." So he gave me really heavy antibiotics, and I'm a little moody anyway. But you put me on a real heavy antibiotics, it set us up for a really bad week. I mean,
It did get us to the front of the line at Disneyland.
I was in a wheelchair.
Because he was in a
at Disneyland.
wheelchair.
So you got to skip all the
I got
lines?
to skip all the lines, but
Did you have to push him around?
We did. We absolutely pushed him around. We got a
I was
benefit from
non-weight bearing. I mean, it was like, but that was just one. And we had another one. We had.
I broke my toe all the way through on a hike.
On the same trip?
In the same trip.
Oh, that's one of like we had a doctor we would send pictures to, like if we need anything, can we send it? She texts us, "Would you send me something normal? Like would somebody please get a fever?" We had dog bite, false pregnancy test, we had broken foot, we had cancer.
Whoa, wait a
scare.
second. Wait a second.
I
You
can't
do
believe
not
that.
just skip over a false pregnancy test here. On a, I mean, how did you have any kind of alone time as it was with 7 kids together? I mean, 7 people together, let alone have a false pregnancy test.
Marilyn's like really attracted to me, so it's like it's hard. I mean, it was difficult for Marilyn.
I'd like to hear Marilyn's side of the story. I mean, but in seriously, there are things like that you probably don't talk about before you go, right? We're going to go away for 6 months. You don't think about how are you going to ever spend any time
right.
alone. I mean, if
Right.
if
You
you're
do not get
camping,
much alone
right,
time
or if you're,
together, no.
but you're staying at somebody's house, it still doesn't change the fact there's probably those are not things you talked about. Were there other things that came up that seriously you hadn't considered, you hadn't talked about?
We did the holistic. I mean, you got to wash clothes, you got to feed 7 people,
And-
you're doing homeschool. You're trying to find places to stay.
And both of you are teachers, right? So you were trained to teach.
And the fact, I mean, my son is as easy to teach as it would be to teach a squirrel. I mean, literally, you start teaching him he's gone. You can't find him. I mean, it was really
You
hard.
had to sit beside him. He's so hyper, like
Yeah,
someone else.
So, but
we had to be beside him.
the me thinking I could do any grace marriage work with managing a trip of 7 people around the country in a van was foolishness. So
Pulling a trailer.
Yeah, my board was right. I was wrong. But it was, there was a lot to it. But we had, I mean, you name it. We had so many wild, I mean, it was every adjective in the dictionary applies to our trip. I mean, it was the best, the worst, the most painful.
We did so many beautiful hikes.
We almost
and
went off the side of a cliff with the trailer because we're driving down the road in Washougal, Washington.
He's sharing all the hard things. There was fun to be had.
But we're tired. We've been driving a long way, so we pull up to our Airbnb in Washougal, Washington. I didn't know that it was up a big gravel hill, narrow gravel hill road. So I pull up,
Pulling the trailer.
So I get halfway up, and guess what? I start spinning.
Right.
And the trailer's full, and there's like 3 feet on one side before a big ledge and a big wall on the other side, and it's almost pulling us back down.
Right.
Yeah, it was not.
How good are you at backing up a trailer?
Better than I was 6 months before the trip started. but yeah, we couldn't back it up because it would bank, and if you tried to turn it, it would go off the side of the hill.
No, right. I get it.
So Marilyn, goes panic, and I don't know. I just got angry. So I don't know. But there were many things like that.
Yeah. So we started taking stuff out of the trailer, thinking if we made it lighter, then it could get up the hill. And the kids are carrying things up the hill to where we're staying. Thankfully, there was a man with a truck at the top of the hill
Who pulled you and
who pulled the trailer up.
Who
for us.
ultimately
We
helped
hooked
us.
it, yeah.
And then,
So
and I remember my daughter, because, kids, the beauty of kids is when things you really need to worry about them, kids don't worry about them. It's like I walked up and I said, okay, kids, I just want to make sure. They said, Dad, it's not our problem.
Yeah.
You know, we're up at the place.
You thought you were going backwards over the hill.
We're watching TV.
They were watching.
Let us know when you figure it out.
Right.
So it was so good. Like Brad said, it really
Did you feel that way at
was.
the time?
Absolutely.
Did
There
you?
were hard moments.
You
like
could
I was
appreciate it?
stressed. We both could. After I was able to appreciate it from the beginning because I'm kind of used to the chaos more than he is. But I mean, I didn't always enjoy the hard days. We laugh about them now. But the things that we did together as a family and hiking and the things that we saw just driving everywhere. It's $150 for a national park pass that gets you in.
To all of them.
All of them.
Right.
So there's so much free to do just inside, and there's so much beauty to be seen in our country.
Oh,
It's
Yellowstone
incredible.
Glacier, and I mean, one day you're in San Diego, 2 days later you're north of LA, then you're on the northern coast of California. It was surreal great, and the most important thing was what it did for our family. I mean, what it did. I mean, I can't.
What did it do for your marriage?
You know, it made it better. Marilyn will appreciate
And
it till her grave that we did it. And then she says the greatest gift I've given her entire marriage was jumping on board with it. We worked together well.
We went on dates on the trip because
You
we had a
did?
16-year-old. So she
Right.
could stay there
we
with
did.
the
Well,
kids.
and she was thrilled about going on this trip, right?
No, she was not thrilled about it.
Seriously, what was
She left.
What was that?
Our
like?
two oldest were like, "Are you crazy?" Because they were in high school, but they were a freshman and sophomore.
Okay.
And it was I'm like, this is the winter of your freshman and sophomore year of high school. It's not like we're taking you out of your senior year. I'm like, you're not going to remember.
You're not going to miss
the winter
graduation. You're
of
not
your-
missing prom. Any of those
Right.
kind of
You're
things,
not
right?
gonna, You're not going to remember the winter of your freshman and sophomore year. But I promise, if we go on this trip, you won't forget it. And so our oldest, she literally cried the first day or two of the trip because of leaving friends. And we did let them fly back halfway through.
Did you?
That was
Just the
their
two of them,
Christmas. That
or
was
all
their
of them?
big Christmas present. So you could go visit with your
We let
friends.
them have like
and
4 days or 5 days home.
Right.
Let
And
them
we picked them back up at the airport. We were
because it was the hardest on them more
Right.
than our younger kids didn't care as much. And so, but yes, so then we would be somewhere and the older two could watch the others so we could have a breather for a few hours and catch our breath and spend some time together and go back to the fun.
To the craziness.
And I guess the application in marriage is more than just like a funny story or like a neat thing for us. It's chart your own vision. You know, it's like just think about what is it as a couple, what is it marriage that you could do, and just think, why not? Like, what are some out of the box things? It's like you have some people that want to write a book, some people that want to learn a language, want to learn a skill. I just learned that things that don't seem practicable, the obstacles, you can overcome them if you think through them intentionally. Like there are a ton of obstacles to this trip, but as we work through each of them individually, what was impossible became doable, which became part of our story. It's at theroadsfamilyadventure.com. You can get a summary of every day of the entire trip.
All 180 days?
All 179. We drove through the night the last day and got back one day early.
So you were a hero dad, right?
No, I was a budget dad because I thought, man, if we drive all
Budget
night,
dad.
we don't have to get 2 more hotel rooms and we can get on home.
Yeah.
We did. We had
Yeah.
one night where we were looking for a hotel, and because once it got to summertime, it's peak season.
Oh,
So
sure.
it was
Going to
that
Mount-
we did more camping once it got to
Going to Mount
summertime.
Rushmore.
And then it was going to be crazy expensive. And then we found a campsite for $20. And one of our daughters on the trip did not like camping. She's like, I
Glamping
have
is more
learned
like it.
glamping for her. And when Brett said, let's just stay at Camp We Like It, this was the name of the place. And she started crying in the car. She goes, it's one thing to camp, but it's another thing to surprise camp.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to find a real cheap place to stay, and La Quintas were like $350 a night, and we needed 2 rooms. I said, we're not doing that.
We're not spending $700.
And then WELIKIT campground was like $20 for all of us, and it was like rusty playground. Cars flying right by us, but it was $20.
Do your children speak to you about it at this point? I mean, they obviously they look
yes.
back on it fondly now too.
And they loved it. And after 2 days, like our oldest girls, they were completely on board.
They were?
Oh, they jumped right on board. After a couple of days of being sad about, I can't believe you're actually doing this to us. They loved it. All of them.
What
They
was
jumped on
schooling
board.
like? What was it like to school the kids there?
Hard. Boy, that was the main event. I was
You
hoping it was
appreciate
going to be
teachers more?
It's unbelievable. I have a whole new appreciation for teachers. One, our son is really a hyper talkative kid, and when he left his school, the teacher, she said it was like 5 boys left when Matthew left.
Because
She did say
the
that.
whole classroom changed,
I know,
right?
whole classroom, unfortunately. Because
Was
of
that
my
the one
son.
that said he's the leader and a bad leader?
So it was really hard to school. I mean, it took up, 9 to 2 every single day. It was 9 to 2, or we would try and cram it in 4 days worth. But it was a
It wasn't.
a lot.
It wasn't their best educational semester.
I think it was.
Well, maybe it was. But
Were their grades good? I mean, you got to pass. You get them all their grades, right?
The advantage of our high school kids, the high school accommodated them, let them do virtual school.
Yeah, and this was before COVID.
Before COVID.
So they were
they were wanting to pilot a virtual school. So they're like, hey, let us do this with your kids. Let's try this thing with your kids. So the high school kids, we didn't have to do anything.
right. It was just the 3.
And then the 3 youngest, 2 of the 3 youngest are most difficult to educate. One of them hates learning. That's she goes, Dad, I just don't like. I've never liked learning. And so that's. And her pediatrician said she has a very unique disdain for schooling.
Did you get to be the individual tutor for that class?
Oh, it would drive you crazy because
He was a math teacher.
You try to teach her, and she just couldn't get it. And I would say, kept going. She goes, you know what my problem is, Dad? And I said, what's that? She goes, I have such a bad teacher. So it was like, not only are you trying to teach somebody that you can't teach, but then they're telling you you're horrible at it. Yeah, it was rough. So
Right. And yet at the same time, you loved it. And you
not
still look
great.
back and you say, why not?
well, I did-
Absolutely. I would leave again tomorrow and do that again.
yeah, it was special.
But
And-
you'd be taking a son-in-law and people who are 23 and things like that this
Right,
time,
right,
so it'd be a bigger trailer.
But we get caught in the cultural box. It's like, this is just how people do life. Well, they do you sports, and you do this, and you do this, and you do this. No, you don't have to do that.
Why?
Yeah, why? Why do we do this? Decide what's best and what's coolest and neatest and what you feel led to do by God for your family and do it. We just we do things because everybody else does them. And we don't have to do that. And that's why did I not want to do the trip? Nobody else was doing it. It was off grid. It was not normal. But just because something's not normal is not a reason necessarily not to do it. Mm-hmm. And I am so grateful, that we did it. And we try to live why not now. We try to think, why not? Part of the reason Grace and Marriage got started. People say it doesn't make sense. You're leaving a successful law practice. You have 5 kids that hadn't started college, and you're just going to start a brand new marriage ministry and see how it goes. But I remember thinking, if I'm on my deathbed, and I didn't try to change how marriage is done, and I didn't change how the church does marriage, I'll regret it. I don't want to ride out what I know seems to be okay. I want to do what God has for us.
Think about it this way. Sometimes everybody else is looking forward and they're saying, just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should do something. And the reality is what we've learned from Brad and Marilyn today is that when it comes right down to it, we sometimes have to say, when everybody else is saying why, look at the other side. Think about why not? Because we also learn through Scripture that all things are possible through God. What is not impossible for man may not be impossible for God, because nothing is impossible there. GraceMarriage.com has got more incredible resources to help you wrestle with those questions of why not. We'll provide links to that in the show notes so you can wrestle with those things on your own. We want to be there as a resource for you. We hope the podcast will be on your playlist for next week as well when we come back and we talk about another very important part of your journey through marriage with Grace Marriage. Thanks so much for being with us. See you next time.
Thank you for joining us on the Grace Marriage Podcast. We really hope you're feeling inspired to take intentional steps to grow in your marriage.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. Your support helps us spread the message of grace and reach even more couples.
And if you have a moment, please leave us a review. Your feedback means a lot to us and helps others discover the podcast.
To learn more about how you can grow in your marriage, visit us at gracemarriage.com. Keep building stronger, grace-filled marriages.
We'll see you next week on the Grace Marriage Podcast. Until then, keep growing in grace.